Strap yourself in and get ready. The leaders in NBL Supercoach are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you dominate your mates and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NBL Show with your hosts, Matrix and Hammer.
Hello and welcome back to the Insight NBL Supercoach Show. I'm the Supercoach Matrix and I'm here with the Hammer, keen to get into everything, but I've got an announcement, Hammer.
Announce away. Hit me.
I broke a record last night at basketball.
Oh, this will be good.
I got ejected in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, what did you do?
So I was playing a team. They were of a smaller Asian descent, the whole team we were playing against. Okay. So like usually I try to get everyone involved, get it into the big guys and everything. So I was getting double teamed as soon as I started bringing the ball up. And I broke my, that's a bit manky. I broke my finger a couple of weeks ago. So I'm dribbling the ball up the court, and the refs just realized this was an 8:30 game, not calling anything. I'm getting, for lack of another word, molested as I bring the ball up the court. I'm getting hit from the left. I'm getting hit from the right. I'm getting my arm slapped. I'm crossing over, getting the other arm slapped on. So this went on for the first 5 minutes. So I've stopped into the middle of the court. I've just grabbed the ball with two hands, and I said, "Would you just F off?" Anyway, I got a tech. And then I walked over to our good friend Trev. You'd know Trev. I walked over to Trev with the finger pointing a little bit, and I said, "I'm usually the smallest one on the court. If I was ever doing that, I'd be on 5 fouls by now. Might have dropped a couple F-bombs or whatever. Got a double tech. Got to leave. Went to the Fed for a couple of beers with me brother-in-law, and got home 20 minutes early. It was a good night all round, really.
It's a win. Sounds very much like Jalen Adams last week. Gone in the first 5 minutes, and everyone's wondering what happened.
I usually don't last 5 minutes, and I'm not talking about basketball, but let's talk about today's show, mate. And we're going to cover the breaking news. We're going to talk about Boost Chat. We're going to go through the game previews. We're going to go through the popular trades. And we're going to have our captains talk as per usual. Mate, this week, let's start by mentioning that the New Zealand Breakers are on the triple-double, our first triple-double of the year, and the price rise. And then we've got Tassie on the double this week. So pretty big week for those two teams, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Look, only two teams on the double makes for an interesting week. You can take one of two ways. Either they must own or you can sort of spread your cash elsewhere. So there's some strategies we'll sort of break down on the rest of the show. I'm really torn on what I'm going to do. But should we get into breaking news?
Let's do it.
It's time for some news from around the league.
A little bit of news dropping over the last 24 hours. Karim Lopez is out with a forearm injury. Will not take part in the Thursday night game, at least. How do you get a forearm injury? This sounds a bit sus.
I mean, I've had it before, but it had nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah, must have been a long flight back from the States, and he's joined the Mile High Club solo, maybe. Hey, second bit of news we're looking at is I'm hearing rumors, nothing official, but it's sounding like Montrezl Harrell is going to be there for the rest of the season.
Yeah, this is a big one for me because he's been one of the best, and I was actually planning to trade him out, but with some of these news, with maybe a little bit of cash still to make, probably meaning we can probably hold him a little bit longer. I'm presuming this was also meaning, not that I've heard anything, that maybe Jarrell Martin isn't quite ready.
Possibly, but I think what we need to concentrate on is Adelaide are on a whole heap of singles. Now, I think Trez is definitely a great hold this week. They're playing Tassie, and Tassie concede more points in the paint than any other team, and they are coming up against one of the most formidable front courts we've seen this season. But as you get down the back end of the season, Jarrell Martin works back into that squad. Like, I know Adelaide are starting to spruik that we can play all three of them, Hump, Trez, Jarrell Martin together. I don't think Jarrell Martin's a three-man. I think if you see that lineup, it's going to be very limited, and we're going to be back in that situation we were talking about earlier in the year where they're just minute sharing. So there's a bit of a flag for me. And the last little bit of breaking news is if you're starting to see some of Adam Ford's comments around Taron Armstrong, I'm having my doubts of whether or not he'll be back this week, possibly saved to be at full health round 6. So throws a spanner in a few plans. I know a lot of people were possibly trying to jump on the price rise for him this week.
Yeah, and it's not so much news for this week. I suppose we just miss out. If we play the second game, we miss out on one price rise, and you just, you just don't get that. But next week, there's actually 2 teams that go on to triple doubles. So I was really planning to load up on basically any Melbourne player, Southeast Melbourne or Melbourne, regardless. So,
and the week after,
we
get Perth's stretch of doubles. So there's a bit happening, and it's an opportunity here. If you don't decide you want to load up on New Zealand and Tassie this week, you can start to get some guys that you can hold for the next 3 to 5 weeks, essentially.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking because Taron was a lock for me, and I'm not going to want to bring in Taron this week. If I get a step ahead, I might actually get the jump on everybody by being able to get Taron or boost for Taron that next week, but still have more Southeast Melbourne and Melbourne players, or at least enough to have 5 players on doubles is more what I'm heading towards.
For sure. And that's breaking news.
So, Kareem Lopez.
Yeah.
You mentioned that? Oh, cool.
I did. He had his little barbecuing alone injury.
That's correct. Sorry, I forgot about the barbecuing alone. Mate, look, let's just bring it up early with the schedule, and we've already started touching on the fact that we want to talk about this early on the show, and it's almost a to boost or not to boost question. Yep. Like, is it worth bringing in any Tasmania player? And I'm probably leading you towards no, but is it worth bringing in any Tasmania player for the single this week when we've got so many on doubles or triple doubles the following week? Do you just load up on breakers? Is any of it boost worthy? I suppose that's what I want you to try and unpack for me, man.
Yeah, look, I'm torn. I don't think I'm boosting to bring Tassie in. I'd only be boosting to clear up my bench and get rid of some dead wood, and I'm on the fence of whether I will or not, but I'm not seeing much I like out of Tassie. Milton Doyle is about the only one you can see right now who's going to go big, but his break even is so prohibitive, you just don't want to go there. Magnay has burnt us, and he's rocks and diamonds. There is such a disparity between his floor and his ceiling that it's very risky. I look at New Zealand, and outside of PJC, I can't see anything that I would captain or really love. So while I think PJC is a lock this week, I think this is a week that you can possibly hold premiums on a single. Like, if you're holding someone like a Darius Days, I would bank on him, being close enough on a single to outscore a Magnay or outscore a Milton Doyle, or at least, have a respectable score, and you're going to save a boost or save some cash.
Touching on a couple guys that I think you can play on a single this week. Maybe Kendrick Davis, maybe Montrezl Harrell. I mean, even a Rob Edwards or somebody like that. Like, I think that they're guys you can comfortably play on the single.
Yeah, I really like the Montrezl Harrell one, just based on the matchup. That they play Tassie. Tassie have been bad, and that's been kind. But they're also so thin up front. If they go with that big lineup that they've been rolling out lately with Isaac Humphries, which potentially will match up on Will Magnay, and then you put Montrezl Harrell at the 4 spot, man, what is Tarangi even going to do? Majok Deng is going to get thrown around like a dirty school bag.
Yeah, he's going to be a speed bump out there.
Yeah, I say Montrez goes big here.
What do you think about Rob Edwards against Illawarra or Jack White against Southeast Melbourne as players that you could throw around and play on the single, just around this, I suppose, segment out. I'm okay with basically anyone playing on a double this week playing them, but I
Yep.
just want to throw out some names of people you can play on a single
Yeah.
and
Look,
not lose any ground.
I like the Jack White one, and a lot of us hold him. I still hold him, and you can hold him sort of the medium term now. They're coming into a run of 3 doubles as well coming up. So the matchup with Southeast Melbourne at that 4 spot is probably where they're probably a little more vulnerable. You got Geordie Hunter, you got Matt Hurt, and then after that, you sort of like your 4 spot goes to Malik Lewis, something like that. Um, I think Jack is in for a good one. Who was the other one you mentioned? Was
Rob Edwards against
Rob Edwards?
Illawarra.
Yeah, look, potentially we've seen some big scores get put up against the Hawks. I haven't been as high as you have on Rob Edwards. I've found him one dimensional, although he has popped up at times to do a bit more. What are your thoughts on him?
I don't hate it. I just think at 287k, if you can hold him, I'm wanting to bring in forwards. Yeah, I'm wanting to bring in PJC and maybe forwards if possible from New Zealand if I go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy when Kareem Lopez was one of the guys that we were bringing in, but I've really just got to throw some names around to try and get the team. I think Kendrick Davis out for PJC is one that a lot can do. Unless you have a Bryce Cotton, you've got to spend up, and then maybe it's a downgrade somebody else. And I don't know if I know of any 60k guys that I can go an Ulbrich or somebody down. So
Yeah.
I might just need to hold Rob Edwards for a week.
Yeah. See, I'm getting Jalen Adams out to bring PJC in. I had a little bit of cash left in the kitty. That's just about even now. So it's sort of 1 for 1, which would leave me holding Kendrick Davis potentially at the other guard spot. Now, do I get rid of him this week, or have I got more business to handle up at the forward position? Still trying to work that out. But what are your thoughts on Matt Mooney?
He didn't look fantastic in the NBA games, which was probably my biggest concern. Looked all right against NBL competition in the first couple games. No, not at his price for me.
Okay. Well, while we're still talking boosts, do you boost just to get rid of some of the deadwood on your bench? Because I know I'm carrying some guys that I have regret written all over. I'm talking Henschel. I'm talking Lat Mayan. Ulbrich is starting to get into that category. Kyron Galloway may, force his way into that conversation. Would you use a boost just to tidy up at least something on your bench?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I do think that maybe moving some guys for some deadwood is a good plan. That's kind of what I was trying to do last week with moving Davo Hickey out. I just got on the wrong horse. But I do think, getting a Henschel, I'd even put Kyron Galloway in that sort of. Like, I do think it is a priority to get him out. And at 200k, it's somebody you can get out. But, like, unless it's like Malik Lewis or somebody like that, I'm not loving a lot of the downgrades or anything like that. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah. I think I'm finding myself in the position, like if I was to bring in Taron, then I'm left holding a pretty big stack of cans, guys, with Wardenberg and Galloway in that mix. So, look, my priority is probably to move on from Lat Mayan, given that, we've got a question here from Callum. I'll bring it up now. Look, who's my priority? I have one trade, Mayan, Henschel, or Ulbrich. Mayan's probably the one I'm looking at there, just because of how poor Adelaide's schedule is. And with Jarrell Martin coming back, that's just going to squeeze him harder than he's already been squeezed. Look, Henschel's got a great schedule coming up, but we know that Riley's just done what Riley does and just buried him after giving us false hope once again.
Yeah.
Ulbrich is probably the one there who has the most defined role. He's just been, good dog down on form lately.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't just been getting as good of a run as he normally has either. I don't know. I think he will go up. Will he ever be 190k? Yeah, like perhaps he will. But like with all Illawarra's singles at the moment, and this is what I talked myself into with Dave O'Hickey, with all of Illawarra's singles, like it's a poor schedule and a guy that's not playing fantastic. Like what more do you need to push him out? Like Ben Henschel is heading into at least a triple double or like 5 doubles in a row at some stage.
Yep.
If they're starting to play that many games and he does find some form during there, it's okay. He's not going to drop in cash. Whereas Lockie Ulbrich, honestly, probably could drop in cash the way he's been playing at the moment. Like he's got a 3-round average of sweet FA.
Yeah, he's been really down on form. And even when he's been getting scores, it seems almost like we're relieved because he's got a few stats in garbage time just to bring him up to par.
Yeah. Oh, look, I feel that way as well. Look, we've actually had a fair chat about some of the schedule in here. But look, let's do the formal side and cut it off. I'd actually like to shout out as part of our weekly preview our sponsor as well, and that's an
He's heating up.
It's not often you can shout out 2 sponsors in the same sentence, but I'm going to give it a go. Ryan from Astute Newstead, coach of the Gaze Lovers, actually won our squeeze of the week and has earned himself a little one of these bad boys. He's actually won one before with NRL, and of course, how he come to become our sponsor was following the show, being a fan of the show, and thought, hey, we want to get involved with these guys. So he's actually scored a little pink 4-in-1 for his lovely fiance as well. So yeah, got himself a little pink 4-in-1. I still think it's for him to put his coffees in, keep them warm, keep his beers cold. Now, what Ryan does when he's not playing Supercoach is he saves you money. So, look, everybody wants to get into the buying market. If you're in the market and your interest rates are above 6.2%, Ryan will get you some savings on that. Maybe it's enough to buy a carton a week. Sometimes it's not what you spend, it's what you save. But if you're looking, go on.
I was going to say, maybe it's enough to afford PJC if you're a bit stretched at the moment.
Exactly. Maybe you can pay for that that little Patreon subscription with what you save, and we will help you fix your team up. But regardless of why you're doing it, or if you're just looking to get into the market, get in contact with him. He can let you know how much you can spend on a house. He can save you some money on your current home loan, and honestly, he might be able to help you out with some NBL Supercoach tips along the way. So there's no better plug than that. But let's have a look into the first game of the week, mate. And it does start off with Brisbane versus New Zealand at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre tomorrow night, 6:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, Brisbane haven't been great. I would expect someone like PJC can put some points on Brisbane.
Well, we've seen a preview of this, haven't we? This was round 1 when we saw Terrell Harrison unable to get it done against New Zealand. Struggled against the small ball centre when they rolled out Menenga. Look, New Zealand got a few games under their belt with the US trip. They come back. They've been back in the country a little bit. Look, I don't think there's anyone there that can contain PJC. They're rolling out Norton. He's a little hurt. He's a little older. Look, he's a good defender, but I don't think he goes with PJC, and he's going to go big. I think he's a lock if you can afford him. I think where we really need to concentrate on this one is those other positions, especially the cheaper guys. Brisbane's still slightly irrelevant outside of making some cash on Prather. But what about the rest of the New Zealand guys? Is anyone here sticking out for you?
Mate, I'm really struggling to find players I want from New Zealand now. And that's just me being completely honest. I haven't been super impressed outside of PJC. I see Taco Fall's going to come over and do his rehab. but that's not super exciting for adding anyone from there. If anything, it only gives question marks that you can't hold these guys long term in case he
Yep.
comes back. The one guy I have been looking at is 154K Sam
Mhm.
Menenga, and
Yep.
I think him averaging 20 points is a lot better than chasing some points from 245K Jonah Bolden and hoping that he sorts his shit out. You know, adding a Mitch McCarron and hoping that he sorts his shit out. Kareem Lopez was a lock for me if he
Yep.
was somebody I can bring in. But outside of Menenga and PJC, I even think your boy Matt Mooney
Possibly.
is probably a stretch.
Menenga's definitely one I've had my eye on. So if you look at what he's done so far, he's only 2 NBL games this year. He dropped 23 Supercoach points and 18 Supercoach points in 29 minutes and then 23 minutes. I reckon that 23 minutes is probably closer to what we can expect. The 29 was a bit inflated because of Gillespie being suspended in that first game. But at 150K, I think he's got the upside that's probably, would you say it's on par or above Aldridge?
Oh, I think it's above Aldridge. I look at Sam Menenga basically as the twin brother of Wardenberg. Honestly,
Yeah.
just look, his role has changed a little bit. But when I saw him with the same team last year, it was hard to own either of them because
Yep.
they're so similar. If you like what you saw from Wardenberg, and yeah, Wardenberg's numbers are inflated due to the fact that Tanner Groves has been out. If Sam Menenga can find, if there's an injury or somewhere in that front court,
Gillespie may as well be out.
yeah, well, we could see him at 250 plus K. But realistically, I think he's a 200K player that's 154K with 3 doubles in a row.
Yep.
A little bit of a no-brainer.
I think so. And it's the price, isn't it? At 150K, you're not going to be too upset at any point to park that on your bench. You know, you
Yep.
could play him this week. I think he's playable on a double. There's a lot of questions popping up in the chat, and we'll do a deep dive later into the answers on them. But look, a Menenga in 2 versus a Jack White or a Montrezl Harrell in 1. We'll deep dive on that in question time. But these are the sort of conversations we need to be having around bringing these guys in.
Yep. No, I'm with you there. Look, there's gonna be, spoiler alert, there's actually gonna be a phenomenal amount of New Zealand Breakers chat due to them being
Yeah.
the most relevant and playing the most amount of games in the next 3 weeks out of anyone else. And it's actually the first week of the price rise. Like, this was the way we were talking about all these players basically 2 weeks ago, but due to that NBA trip, that's why they're playing their 3rd round in week 5. Let's have a look at Tasmania versus Sydney. Sydney have been great defensively, which is turning me off a few Tasmanian assets.
Yeah. Look, it's a tale of two teams, isn't it? Sydney have been phenomenal from a Supercoach standpoint, outside of a few little missteps like last week's Jalen Adams experiment. Tassie have been the opposite. They have been disgusting. There really hasn't, outside of one accidental good game from Magnay, been anything to write home about. Milton Doyle last week, 0 Supercoach points. His break even's now sky high. Look, we said before they conceded a lot of points in the paint. Cooks, and then Lepepe's been scoring in the paint. You've got Cam Oliver, who can do some work inside. You've got the next star, who seems to be able to get to the rim at will. I don't see them putting up a lot of resistance. I think this is more of a game to look for Sydney than Tassie.
Yeah. Look, if I bring that schedule up again though for Sydney, it's a little bit grim. Like, they're heading into a double next week. I suppose you could hold them for, get somebody to hold for 2 weeks because basically everybody's on a single this week. We have talked a lot about downgrades. Tyler Robertson's been thrown up in my DMs a few times. Let us know what you think about him, man, because he's somebody that you could go, I suppose a Ben Henschel or somebody across to.
I get worried with this one. he had a great weekend because Jalen Adams was out. Now, maybe he's pushed himself into the rotation if there's an injury, but if you put in those 30 minutes a game, both games for Jalen Adams, is it there for him? Because you still got to remember that both the other guards did play in this game. Sean Bruce played and Liafa played. Where do those minutes disappear when Adams comes back? And I think they're just going to say, look, great work, kid. You're a 3-year project. Bide your time again. But the break even's phenomenal.
Yeah. And look, I'm never gonna tell you it's a bad idea to bring in somebody with a negative break even when they just had a week of putting in 46. But Jalen Adams plays a lot of minutes. And if one of these games aren't basically one game this week, if it's not a blowout, I'm not actually sure they see the court.
Yeah. Look, there's a couple of guys jumping in the chat here, Matrix, saying round 7 Sydney do have a double. Does that change anything for you?
Not with Tyler Robertson.
Nah. But look, it's something to be aware of. Look, Sydney were a double. This week they're on the single, but it's not really a huge issue considering there's not many on a double. But back-to-back doubles after this round. Look, I don't know if I'm bringing him in, but I could possibly hold on to people not named Jalen Adams. But then the other one we're probably holding is Cam Oliver. I can't even look at him right now.
Can I give you an alternative and let me know a would you rather? And no, you don't need to go on with any would you rather analogies. We all know how that works out. I had people in my DMs all week about that. But Malik Lewis with a negative break even single this week into 3 doubles in a row is my alternative to Tyler Robertson.
Yeah, I like it. He's about 121K, something like that now.
Yep.
Look, I've had a play with it. What do you think the coaching change means for it? We saw, in Mike Kelly's throes of desperation before he was shown the door, he benched Sobey. He brought Malik Lewis into the lineup. We know McKinnon and Sobey have a history. I'm a little concerned that, McKinnon's going to want to come in. He has head coaching aspirations. He's going to want to put his stamp on this team. Cast your mind back 2 seasons ago when he stood in the grave of James Duncan when he was shown the door in Brisbane. And he's changed the rotation, stuffed around for a minute and then decided, not for me, I'm going back to the front office. We'll bring someone else in. Does this move benefit guys or is it too early to tell?
I think it's too early to tell. I think Malik Lewis in the starting lineup is not about Malik Lewis. I'm not sure DWJ and Nathan Sobey can coexist on the court for 30 minutes a night and have success. I think maybe that we see a 15 minutes of them on the court together. DWJ gets the bulk of minutes, and then Sobey comes in like a firecracker with the bench unit as well. And then Malik Lewis is playing that role that we talked about from like Kelly LePepe. Less is more. Let DWJ cook. Put Malik Lewis, who is a long defender that can shoot the ball, out there. See what he can do. Yeah, one of those less is more situations. So the more minutes he played, he's going to exceed that 122K. But with his role in Southeast Melbourne, even with all the coaching changes and everything that's going on in Southeast Melbourne, it's got to be better than Almanza playing behind, Pinder and blokes like that. And like Doolittle being the second coming of Jesus.
Agreed. And once this season's over, I mean, they've just signed 0-5 right now. Do you then throw in the towel and say, you know what? We're going to salvage this season and get a next star drafter. We're going to pump up his stocks. Wow, you are really rugged up tonight. Hey,
thanks, man.
Look, I love what you're saying about that team. That's exactly how I'd run it. But is there anything in the back of your mind that says Sam McKinnon had a whole heap to do with bringing Nathan Sobey down to the heartland, and there's obviously some deal between the two of them? He's like, look, man, when I get to that head coaching job, it's all going to be all right.
So what you're saying is Sam McKinnon has told Sobey to play like dog shit so that
No.
he could get.
Well,
I'm staring. I'm shit staring.
you know
No,
what? It's possible.
his mate there. Look, no, I still think Malik Lewis has a role, even if Sobey and DWJ do find a way
Yeah.
to coexist. I think that he will exceed his 12 points per game in the next little bit. And look, I just need a downgrade this week, and I can't find anybody that I like from New Zealand. So I start to look at Melbourne, which are honestly too stacked with experienced NBL players for me to find a cheapie in that sub 130, 140 range. So I have to look at Southeast Melbourne. And when you
I
want
really
a cheapie,
like Malik Lewis.
you look at dog shit teams.
Yeah, for sure. While it's looking like we're sponsored by Under Armour all of a sudden, riddle me this. Would you, at a certain price, have a look at Nathan Sobey? He's dropped about 70, 80K already.
Look, maybe if Sobey drops to now, what is he at the moment? Maybe if he's around that 200K mark, I would have a little punt on him. Like he's got a break even of 40 heading into a couple games. This isn't the week to bring him in, but if he comes in and scores another 15 or so this week and drops to 220K or something along those lines, then hey, he is going to score well some weeks, and he is going to play at that level that he's going to force the coach to keep him out on the floor.
Yeah, and any injury to DWJ,
he's a 300K player.
Yeah. What's the next game?
Mate, we just talked about Southeast Melbourne the whole time, even though that was about Perth versus New Zealand. But look, Perth. I just need to talk about Malik Lewis. So we've had that chat about Melbourne and Southeast Melbourne. That one's happened on Sunday at 1:30 over here in Australian Eastern Standard Time. But look, Perth play New Zealand. When I look at PJC against Perth, I'm still okay with it. Like Perth leak a lot of points. They score a lot of points. They play that high octane. Again, great for PJC captain.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of their weakest spots defensively is at guard. Ty Webster's a turnstile. He's like a rusty gate the way he tries to guard on the perimeter. Henschel's that little bit bigger, but that comes with its own issues, like most of the fact he's not playing. Pepper, I wouldn't say is a great defender. So, and they're not going to put Cotton on him because they're saving Cotton for the offensive end. So, I think it's a great matchup for PJC, and he's shown he rises to the occasion.
Yep. Look, I'm big on that one. We're staying away from Perth players due to the current schedule at the moment. Give it a couple weeks. We're going to have plenty of Perth chat to all our West Australian listeners. I look at Cairns versus Illawarra, and look, a lot of the guys that people are holding. Dave O'Hickey, let's start with him. I don't ever expect him to score 35 plus again.
I'd like it.
I just don't see it. I think that last game was the perfect storm. It was the blowout. He got to stay out on the floor. They benched their stars. He is the sixth man. He was cooking. I think that he is a guy that could get to 200. He probably will with that score in his rolling average. But I do expect it to come down again at some stage. I don't think with Illawarra's schedule, he is a cash cow worth bringing in. And I want to go on record so that everyone can roast me later.
Look, I don't think you bring him in, but if you've held him from the beginning like most of us, I think he's definitely a hold. And I also think, apart from being a pretty good hold and going to generate some cash, most teams will have a lot bigger problems to get rid of. Your Lat Mayans, your Ben Henschels, your Elijah Peppers, your, Galloway even.
Your Lockie Ulbrich?
Yeah.
That's a segue.
Take it.
Look, I was just saying, like, Lockie Ulbrich is probably a worse hold this week. If you were to get rid of blokes, it's probably Lockie Ulbrich. I also think Lockie Ulbrich probably matches up okay against the smaller cans.
Yeah, possibly. We've still got no Groves back for Cairns. Look, Lockie hasn't been bad. It's just been not good.
Meh.
Meh.
I just find myself wanting to hold. Like I've talked myself into holding Montrezl Harrell and Jack White when I'd expected to be trading out these 300k guys. And I'm just finding myself short on cash because I want to get rid of Lockie Ulbrich. I want to get rid of Ben Henschel. I want Parker Jackson Cartwright in. I'm okay with boosting, but it's a long way down. Like I thought I would be able to get away with this week without boosting by going a Jack White, a Montrezl Harrell, somebody along those lines down to Sam Menenga. But I find myself wanting to keep Trez to get Davis up to a Park or Davis or a Rob Edwards up to Rod Edwards. So I find myself just having to get rid of somebody else, and it's Ulbrich.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think the argument not to boost is probably stronger this week, unless you're cleaning up your bench. But if you are going to play good guys on a single, this is the week to do it. Because the guys that are on a double outside of Parker Jackson Cartwright, like we broke it down before, I'm not seeing anything amazing there. There's a chance, we know that Doyle and we know that Will Magnay have the ability to go big. Can they go big against Adelaide? Look, I think Will Magnay is going to have his work cut out for him. I think him trying to defend how hard Harrell goes is screaming foul trouble to me. And the fact that they've got no backup big who's over about 4'11" means he's probably going to play a lot of minutes, but he's vulnerable to foul trouble. I think that's a major thing you need to consider this week.
And like he's going to have his hands full with Hump, and then you've got Trez to deal with as well. It's going to be a rough night. They're going to just bowl over Ruben Tarangi, Fabian Krislovich. And then you've got Will Magnay forced to play 34 minutes, but he has to play 23 because he's in foul trouble.
Yeah. Majok Deng's probably the guy who's going to come in and have to play some 5.
Gross.
Yeah, look, Adelaide, I'm high on Adelaide versus the Jackies. Those bigs are going to carve it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm sitting with. And like it's an easy world to take Montrezl Harrell out this week, but I think he's one you want to keep, and he's somebody that you can definitely play on a single.
I would be keeping, I don't know Trez, but I would definitely be keeping him one more week and then get rid of him. Like it's like that week, the first week where everyone's on a single. It's the exact same as everyone being on a double, really. There's no difference. This is when pretty much everyone's on a single and the teams that are on a double aren't that relevant outside of PJC. This is the week to hold one more, then get rid of him next week when you need that cash to pivot with those other teams coming on those runs of 3 doubles.
Mate, let's head on to the trades, and that's onto the train. All aboard the Parker Jackson Cartwright train. But not only can you get him in Supercoach, you can get him in Game Day Squad. And if you use code IFS50 at the moment, you're getting $17 worth of players. They're giving us codes every week, so pop into the chat, give us all your follow us on X. Give us all your, your predictions. We're predicting the highest score for each game and handing out some codes for Game Day Squad. They've been a great supporter of the show. They've been giving away lots of things to our fans. We have our own competition. We've got the code in our Discord. So come in, play against Braino, play against myself, play against you, Hammer, and look, you can win prizes, cash prizes every single week. It's free to play, so download the app, give it a go, get some boosted cards there, and just see if it's for you. So sign up, use code IFS50, get some cards and players on us. But mate, let's head into the trades of the week here. What do you think, as I bring it up, is going to be the biggest trade out for PJC? Because we know it's going to be PJC is the biggest trade.
Look, I'd say Adams. I think it's the closest you got in value without having to do too much extra work.
Yep. Sorry, I am still just bringing it up, and it's actually Montrezl Harrell out for Parker Jackson Cartwright. That's
Ooh,
8% of trades this week.
interesting.
We'd advise against that. We'd be finding a different way to bring in Parker Jackson Cartwright. I think Trez still has some money to be brought, and it's a great matchup. And I think there's going to be a lot of people only playing 2 or 3 players on doubles this week, and I think you'll be able to hold ground this week, still while holding Trez.
Yeah, look, I think some weeks you've got to be content with treading water. You can't be making your move every week. Otherwise, you're just chasing and chasing, and you're going to burn out. This is a really good week to just be content with what you got. And I don't think you lose ground.
Mate, can I say, top 10 trade-ins are only 3 players.
Ooh. All right,
So,
let me guess here. PJC? Menenga? Oh, Magne.
Matt Mooney.
Mooney. Okay.
Yeah, only a few people bringing him in. So Parker Jackson Cartwright's being brought in for Montrezl Harrell. Can't really get around it. Kyron Galloway can get around it if you have that cash there. I'm presuming there's a downgrade in there somewhere. Parker Jackson Cartwright, Kendrick Davis. That's one I'm looking at. Parker Jackson Cartwright, Lat Mayen, Parker Jackson Cartwright, Cam Oliver. I can get around basically everyone else.
So what I'm hearing is if you fade PJC, you're hanging on for dear life like Matrix's top button.
Mate, I got that thick neck going on.
Thumb man.
Mate, Sam Menenga. So people are going Kendrick Davis out. People are going Jalen Adams out. People are going Rob Edwards out. So obviously they're using those jewels around. They're using their Benny Henschels that they're holding on the bench. Everybody like that. So I can get around Sam Menenga coming in this week. I wouldn't call him must own, but I would call it a solid trade in.
You know what? I like it if after this week you can just park him on your bench. You know, similar to what we've probably done with Lockie Aldridge all year. I think he's definitely an upgrade on some of the dead wood that's hanging on my bench.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially with doubles, like if you can play him on the bench on a double, that's a great treat. I think as we work our way towards like next week, I'm thinking like Trez, I could trade out for Matt Hurt or somebody like that. Just forward thinking. I've got Jack White, so I can hold him. I've got Shea Illy, so I can play him. I've probably got to go Rob Edwards to somebody. He's probably going to drop in cash. Maybe I try and find a way to get Derek Walton Jr. I think that there's some moves you can make. And then if you've got all those players, you can sit Sam Menenga on the bench. I also think with the way that Lee's been playing, I'd love one, thanks. Sorry. Just got one of these brought to me.
Got the life.
You're right, mate. Shout out to John.
I think that Montrezl Harrell is such a luxury. I think it's just such a luxury, man, that you could then go to Matt Hurt without having to have him caught up in your PJC trade. I think you're getting the PJC this week, and you are absolutely ahead of the pack next week.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm excited about with Menenga, Parker Jackson Cartwright. It's forward thinking while getting points this week. Mate, Matt Mooney, you've spoke about him. You asked my opinion on him. I wasn't super high. I would say after sitting there and watching the doldrum it was of the Philadelphia 76ers rip the New Zealand Breakers to shreds by about 50. I'm not high on too many New Zealand Breakers assets. But Matt Mooney, you've expressed some interest. Tell us why.
Look, this is very, very not interested interest. Look, I'm squinting hard. I'm trying to convince myself, and it's based on that one game. He's had one game so far where I thought, you know what, this guy does a little bit more than what they brought him in to do, and I don't think I'll be bringing him in just yet. I think at 277K, there's enough around that price. It's probably better. It was only really based on the schedule, and it's off such a small sample size. He's hit and miss, and I don't love it, but I am interested. He's one I want to keep a very close eye on because if you don't move this week and he convinces you, they've got a lot of doubles coming up that you could jump on it at any point.
Mate, look, I've only had the eye test. I haven't really looked at Matt Mooney outside of what I've seen
Yep.
when he played in those NBA, NBL games. Of course,
Yep.
we don't get Supercoach scores for that. Maybe I should sit there and count them all up one day.
Quick
I don't
math.
know. If we get big enough, I'll do that for the fans. The NBA, NBL games in
Get
Supercoach
your
scores.
assistant that holds your beer to do the math for you, man.
I'd
You are
love
big
to
time.
see how many Supercoach points Kelly Oubre Jr. got in that last one. But I tell you what, if any NBL teams were watching that, putting Kelly Oubre Jr., what's he, 6'6", on Parker Jackson Cartwright did not phase him in any way, shape, or form. But Matt Mooney has scored 24 Supercoach points and 26 Supercoach points in his 2 games for a break even of 52. At the very least, if he plays the way that he's been playing, if you believe in the role that he's on, he is only 4% of players are bringing him in this week. One player's trading him out. So basically 780 players own him. He is a super pod, I would say.
Yeah, look, I think he's gotten better, but I also get concerned when you're putting all your eggs in one basket. Like, you got Parker Jackson Cartwright and you got his offsider next to him. If New Zealand have a shocker, you're going down with both of them. If one has a massive game, is it at the detriment of the other? Look, Mooney really was brought in to play Robin to PJC's Batman. I don't think you're expecting them both to be, 50 Supercoach points in the same game.
Also, you're talking about throwing in all your eggs in one basket. If you're bringing in Parker Jackson Cartwright and Sam Menenga and you're bringing in Mooney, that's a whole lot of eggs in one nest.
Ooh, definitely is. It's quite the omelette.
Yeah. Speaking of omelets, I think that's the way that your season would be going, Julian, if you're thinking about bringing in Freddie Gillespie. There's a better chance of Freddie Gillespie getting a ticket back to America this week than there is of me bringing him in. He does have a break even of 58. He did get 18 in the first game, but I do think in most games he's sort of looked like he's been played off the floor.
Yeah. Look, he's probably more of a chance of headbutting someone than getting a double-double. I don't think he was ever expected to be Supercoach relevant, and he hasn't surpassed our expectations. He's been worse than advertised.
Is there a world
No.
where you think bringing in Taron Armstrong this week is an idea?
It was more than an idea for me before I started listening to Adam Ford's cryptic press conferences. I think the risk is just too big after what happened with Jalen Adams last week. You know how these teams are; they're very cagey, often about bringing about injuries and things like that. I'm bringing Taron in to chase that points. The price rise. He had 2 massive games last round that he played. He's ready for a big price rise. He hasn't had one yet. I wasn't bringing him in really expecting to play him on my court. So I think I can get that price rise elsewhere. And, he'll have more price rise. He's going to be the man once he's healthy. I can wait a week. Talking of injuries, Jalen Adams was starting to hear that that soreness he had in his back. It was only soreness. He hasn't been sent for scans or anything. He's been training. He's fully expected to play this week as far as I know. So if you were thinking of holding him, would you hold Adams, considering they've got double after this?
Look, it's an awful break even, but I was talking about him as if he was the best Supercoach player, but 2 weeks ago. And I think if healthy, You could hold him through this, hold him for the next two. And while he will drop cash, you only lose cash when you trade him out. I'm willing to bet that in those 4 games that you've got, as he comes back and becomes a little bit healthier in the following 2 weeks, that he will come back up closer to that 400K. You're going to hit panic stations when you see him maybe that 330, 340K, but I think he can make that money up pretty quickly just by a couple quick games. The man's a firecracker when he's playing.
Yeah. And look, if you wanted to, you go to PJC this week. You could quite easily go back to Jalen Adams next week if you wanted, after getting the price rise we're expecting out of PJC this week. Is there a world, though, just thinking off, a little left field right now, where you could own PJC and Xavier Cooks next week? Is there enough cash to go around for that?
I think there might be. Like if you've got Montrezl Harrell and you're just going super thin on your bench, or like I'm going to have a Will Magnay to trade out next week.
Yep.
It depends who rears their head. I am more thinking of trying to get Will Magnay and blokes like Montrezl Harrell up to Matt Hurt due to the
Yep.
schedule. But a double-double's nothing to sneeze at. And, mate, you could just go. If you can afford Xavier Cooks, you could just go Xavier Cooks. He's going to have that 19 in his rolling average too. So you might even make money the next couple of weeks out of Cooks because that 19 is going to come out. He's got a break even of 45 this week on the single, drops a touch, and then as he comes into the following week, like his lowest score this year is 38 on a week. Like Xavier Cooks it's been elite areas.
Yeah, his points per minute's been phenomenal, and all the concerns we had about the minute split and too many mouths to feed in Sydney seems to not affect him. It really only affects Cam Oliver.
I'm actually considering bringing in Taron this week in order to have some money the following week to do some moves like this. So, like, downgrading allows me to get Parker Jackson Cartwright and gives me the flexibility to do that the following weeks. I'm okay with taking a slide. I took a slide this week. I was sitting top 100, took a slide 400 spots to set myself up. But if any of us watch Sky Sports on a Saturday afternoon, the horse that leads the first turn doesn't often win the race. So, deep, meaningful. Put it on a bumper sticker. But like genuinely seeing myself in the top 100, I've just said to myself, man, I just love to boost. I just want to keep staying there. But I'm playing the long game. I'm trying to generate that cash. I'm trying to make sure I have the money to get the points next week. Look, maybe I will take another hit this week in order to set myself up for the future.
I really don't mind that. I don't think, getting Taron in that situation is bad. He will make cash at some point. And I don't think too many people are going to be able to afford a squad like yours. Like, to have Cooks, PJC, and then not completely decimate the rest of your squad, that's pretty elite. And I think if you take a 2 to 3 round view on it, that could really pay off. This could be a season-defining point for you.
Yeah. Look, maybe I'm thinking too funky with it, and Taron Armstrong's out till round 8, and I've just genuinely shot myself in the foot. But look, I've got blokes like Ben Henschel sitting there on my bench that I'm getting 4 Supercoach points. Taron Armstrong's only going to get 4 less points than Ben Henschel this week.
Talking of elite guys, should we get into a bit of captain talk?
Yeah, let's just get into some captain talk. I'm excited to talk about this one because it's one guy.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, Captain!
Yeah, I think you've given it away. It is PJC or bust this week.
Oh, okay.
You're captaining Adnam?
No, really. I think there was a question in the chat earlier, like, am I going to fall that far behind by not captaining Parker Jackson Cartwright? Yes. He is probably the only 420K cash cow I've ever seen in my life. He's averaged 50 this year. If he can just hit his average twice, we're looking at 40K price rise, which is absolutely bonkers. And you want to know what's harder than getting in PJC this week? Getting in PJC next week.
100%. They've got the best schedule over the next 7 rounds, I think. Look, and they're good matchups for him this week. We've been through that. There really is daylight for second. And even if he doesn't go that good, everyone has him. You don't lose either way on this one.
I love a super pod. This is not the week to pod your captain.
Okay, let's just, for anyone who for some reason doesn't want to win Supercoach and decides to not have PJC in their squad, what are your options?
So what you do, and especially on the iPhone, right? So you get it. Oh, yes, I am still using my rose gold iPhone, so I will demonstrate. You get it. You get to the main screen. You hold it down, and then a little cross comes up on the corner of each app. So what you do is you find the Supercoach app and you press the little cross on it and just delete the app. You can install it when any of the other seasons happen. Where if you're interested in BBL, you can come on in 4 weeks' time and you can install there. But not owning Parker Jackson Cartwright, not captaining Parker Jackson Cartwright this week is absolute fucking ludicrous.
Yeah, look, I think the only other 2 options, you have to go with Magnay or Doyle if you don't have PJC. I don't think either are going to do that great based on matchups, based on a whole heap of form and other things. If I didn't have PJC, I could almost be tempted into Montrezl Harrell. Like
on a single,
a 50 from him. Are you getting? The odds aren't there, are they? But I was going to say a 50 from him versus a 50 over 2 games from Magnay or Doyle. It's possible the way Tassie's playing.
I know, but why? Even if you have Doyle, I would trade Doyle out this week to get Parker Jackson Cartwright.
You'd have to.
Honestly, I would go as far to say I would nuff Lockie Ulbrich to make sure I had enough money for Parker Jackson Cartwright. I would 58K somebody. I would go Rob Arms. What?
Would you Tarangi your team?
I would Tarangi my team. I would go Rob Edwards to Tarangi to bring in Parker Jackson Cartwright this week. And I think you'll still finish better off than captaining anyone else. I know it's a boring
the moral
captain.
Of the story here is just blow up your team to get PJC or quit.
Yeah, Hakuna Matata. Let's answer some questions.
It's question time. Let's answer your questions for the week ahead.
Mate, there's been some good questions. Appreciate them coming in. Sorry if we won't be able to get to any ones of them. We've been trying to answer them along the way, and I do think that that we've covered a lot of these. But here's a good one. Crafty Fat Boy. Actually, he's been fantastic in the chat. Kudos. You win this round. I hope that you can get a squeeze of the week. If you're this active every week, slide into my DMs. I will get you a squeeze pack, my friend. But is Harrell going to score better than Jack White this week? So he's talking about playing one guy on a single this week, probably having a Sam Menenga or somebody playing on a double, which I suppose you could bring that into the chat as to whether you think Montrezl Harrell, Jack White on singles will outscore Sam Menenga on a double. What's your thoughts?
Harrell, I just love that matchup for him versus Tassie. Magnay and then the Oompa Loompas. There is not a second big on that team. That they will not handle the Twin Towers. Harrell is going to go off. Jack White will be solid, but he's playing against Matt Hurt. Then they drop down to maybe a Malik Lewis, who still has some size and athleticism. Jack's not all that tall himself. I just feel like the mismatch here is Harrell.
I agree. And it's matchup dependent. I've been super high on Jack White. I played Jack White on a single last week. Turned out perfectly fine. Look, I expect them probably both to get in the 30s this week on a single. They're averaging 33 and 31 respectively. Montrezl Harrell working his way up to this current role that he's at. But yeah, I do just love Trez's matchup. And you know what? If you read the selector and you had a look at how many games everybody plays, you wouldn't be following podcasts like this. It's matchup dependent, and Montrezl Harrell has the best matchup this week.
All right. Little second part of that question. Throw Menenga into that mix. Harrell, White, Menenga.
I am willing to bank that even with Jack White's, say he scores 35, I'd rather roll the dice on Sam Menenga trying to get to 40 in 2 games. Sam Menenga's got that role. He's been good in that role. I do think I just expect him to keep scoring 20s. Do I think he's ever going to score a 37 like Davo did the other week? Probably not. But I do think he'll roll out 20s. In the next 3 weeks, he'll get 40 a week, which is better than most guys on honestly, 90% of guys on a single. He'll get to 200K, and we'll be able to trade him out in 3 weeks for a better asset.
And if he maintains an average of 23, which he's probably pretty close to right now, that's your break even for a new import. That's 277K. So he's set for a price rise.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Baker had the same question. It's very relevant at the moment with Jack White and Montrezl Harrell being so highly owned. I would love to be able to trade Montrezl out this week. I just can't do it with this matchup, and I can't trade Jack White out this week. Looking at those 3 triples in a row, and we've already held him through 1 single. You're just going to hold him through another.
The good thing with Harrell, though, is you can move him to center. There is a world where potentially you could play all 3 of these on your court if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got Will Magnay to deal with as well, so you're moving all those guys around, but I'm selecting Menenga over White. Magnus Sherlock, fantastic name. Does Ruben Turangi, the sandwich, outscore Tyler Robertson this week on a single?
No. Oh,
yes.
Well,
I don't think Tyler Robertson plays if Jalen Adams is healthy. I think Sean Bruce was good enough to be the backup guy. I think Tyler Robertson plays 6 minutes a night and is like a shit Ben Henschel for the rest of the year.
I think the more Tarangi plays this week, the lower his score will be. I think he's going negatives. I am that off him. I feel like he's ruined the Jack Jumpers this year. I can't even watch.
I think it's a little bit more to do with Jack McVay leaving than Ruben Turangi being there. He's basically signed there to be Jack McVay's backup for 8 minutes a night, and now suddenly he's playing 20. That's not Ruben's fault.
Well, I don't know about it. I feel like he was the last one available after McVay left. And like, well, you know that scene in Shrek? And Shrek's looking for someone to go on a quest with him, and he's like, anybody else? And Donkey's like, pick me, pick me. He's like, anybody else? And everyone else steps back, and there's Ruben. Like that's how it played out.
Mate, there's been no better reason to pick up the sandwich than that. Mate, David Bryson is on hold one out of Kyron Galloway and Lockie Ulbrich. I'm in this situation, and I'm holding Lockie Ulbrich because I've been really disappointed in Kyron Galloway, but I'm just going to use that 50K this week to get Parker Jackson Cartwright. There's a theme this week. It's all about PJC. But I would be pretty happy to get rid of Ulbrich. I still think there's more upside in Ulbrich than Kyron Galloway, the way I've seen him playing.
I think there's more of this that's in Ulbrich's control than there is Galloway's. See, Ulbrich is just down on form. He's still getting the minutes, and those minutes will push out a little bit as he starts to play better. Galloway's minutes are so up and down, and you've still got Tanner Groves to come back in, which is hanging over his head. AK Gack all of a sudden is in favour. We know that Adam Ford hates Supercoach. We know that last year his big man rotation just about destroyed most of us. I've got a lot more faith in Tatum to manage the 3 bigs in Illawarra.
I'm going to stick up for Adam Ford. If Menenga and Wardenberg are the same player, like how did he decide anyway? He just said, Sam, get out there. And one of them stood up first.
Well, to not stand up for Adam Ford, why did he sign them both when they're the same player?
Mate, that was probably up to the front office, my friend.
In Cairns, he's the coach, the front office, the janitor. They got low budget, man. He's wearing a lot of hats.
Mate, I wish they bring Taj McCall back. I reckon he'd be getting some buckets at the moment. But we've got a Christian Skurs in the chat, and he's going Davis, Harrell, and Edwards out for PJC, Mooney, and Menenga. Really sticking to that plan of bringing in 3 New Zealand breakers.
You know what? I love 2 of them, and we talked before that Mooney could be a pod. This could pay off big. I would love it if we had a bigger sample size on Mooney. And I've seen glimpses. I've seen enough to make me think there's a chance.
I like it, but if New Zealand struggle, you've just like made your bed and you need to lie in it. I just like Harrell's matchup too much. I think if Harrell scores 10 points, if Harrell scores 10 points less than Mooney this week, you've had a win.
Yep.
Which I fully expect Mooney to score 50 and maybe Harrell to score 40. That's the way that I really see it panning out, despite talking about Harrell's matchup, talking about the possibility of 50. That's really what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's worth a boost. But if that's the only way that you can get PJC dollar for dollar, needing to get that 100K for Davis, then I understand it.
Yeah, you do you, boo.
Mate, does the winner of the IFS League still get a dinner date with you, Rob's Punk's asking?
You know what? I feel like that's like a premium tier Patreon package. I'd be up for dinner. Where are you taking me,
No.
Rob?
I tell you what, that's going to pop up in the chat later. I tell you what, it's going to be a dirty motel listening to some of Rob's messages. But Paul in the chat, he's usually working in this hour, so thanks for popping on today, Paul. Maybe daylight savings helping him. Maybe he finished work a bit earlier. But is Jalen Adams going to go this week with this back issue? I think the fact that he trained this week is enough to expect that he could make it to a game. I hate that Sydney is so good that they could really put the cue in the rack when it comes to Jalen Adams in the first quarter if they're up 10 points and just bring him on if necessary. That's what I hate about Sydney.
The fact they play Tassie means there's a high chance they could rest him, or probably worse than not playing him is playing him 2 minutes and then letting his score drop again.
Corey Blackledge has a really good question and talks about Adams trading to Cotton in round 7, and I actually think that that's a really good plan. Where this is going to go wrong is if he's not 100% this week, like we were just talking about. They put the cue in the rack early. Jalen Adams had some pretty severe backstrapping last week. If he did drop money, you might not have your plan to get him to Cotton, and you've got to go for a subpar guy in those rounds, which I would hate.
Yeah, look, it would mean holding Adams and hopefully not the detriment of PJC. Cotton, he's been below average this year. I don't love it, but look, it's a set and forget if you want to have him. If you're bringing a guy in that expensive, though, you're probably looking at it as the captain option, right?
Yeah, I think Adams on a double, like, especially now that people have got burnt. I think it could be a really good pod captain these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Mr. CBB. It's only 9:37 up here in Queensland, and both Hammer and I are up in Queensland. So, yeah, we're ready to kick on. Despite despite those forearm injuries. Christian Skurs is asking who he should trade in for Harrell, White, and either Tui or Edwards and Davis would be a second boost. I'm trying to work out kind of what he means
Harold
by this.
White.
No, I'm lost. You need to elaborate, champ. Kendrick and Galloway to PJC and Menenga is locked in for Paul Vards, and that sounds sensational. Is it worth a boost to kick Benchel for Lewis?
I think Lewis is much better prospect than Henschel. Is it boost worthy? I don't feel like you need to boost this week. Like, what's the benefit of boosting this week? Let's say Henschel gets he gets 6, and Lewis gets a 16. 10
So
points?
he'll be priced out because he's coming in with a negative break even. So he scores 16 and you start to see him at 140k, and Henschel does that. Then you're going 50 or 60k down to go Henschel too. I do think this is the week to go Henschel to Malik. If you expect Malik to, if Malik scores some 16s in the next 3 weeks, that's 6 games too. He's going to get up there to Kyron Galloway money.
Yeah. Look, I love it. I just don't think. I think you could do something better with a boost. I feel like that's a trade that you can make anyway. Look, do it. Just do it.
That's actually something. That's actually something I'm genuinely looking at doing. So I'm just not sure I have the cash there. Mate, look, you're right. It is 10:37 somewhere. It's not 10:37 here. But we do probably need to wrap up. Look, on our Patreon, you're doing your reviews. If I can sort my phone issue, all the TikToks, all the Instagrams will be coming back with my reviews of the night before. Look, it's just a quick recap. It's probably me looking hungover on the screen and letting you know. So follow us on all socials. We've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, we've got Twitter. You can follow SC_Hammer. You can follow SC_Matrix on Twitter. You can follow the Insight Fantasy Sports. Look, that's where all our NBL news is going to happen. Oh, this is a really good question.
Yeah, we should finish on this one.
Mate, you go first.
Not really a question. This is from the sports guy. Not really a question, but who do you guys think is the best looking player in the league? Ooh. You know what?
What do you got?
I'm going to think about this one, and I'm going to post this in the chat on Patreon.
I already know.
Go.
It's Kelly LePepe. I like those lovely broad shoulders. I reckon you can. I tell you what. Imagine running your hand through those luscious locks. I tell you what. We need to end it on that.